For the Super Bowl, the NFL honored the best of the regular season last night, and North Texas high school stars dominated, taking 3 of the most prestigious awards. Highland Park's Matthew Stafford took MVP honors, Rockwall's Jackson Smith-Njigba is Offensive Player of the Year, and Arlington Martin's Myles Garrett won Defensive Player of the Year. In fact, the new NFL sacks leader was a unanimous choice. There they are, the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2026, also announced at last night's NFL honors. The Cardinals' Larry Fitzgerald, Panthers' Luke Kuechly, Colts and Patriots' Adam Vinatieri, and 49ers' Roger Craig, Saints' Drew Brees. 3 are first ballot Hall of Famers. Unfortunately, it's who's missing that's also making headlines, and joining us to talk all about it and all things Cowboys and Super Bowl, although those things haven't gone together in 30 years, is Locked On Cowboys podcast host Landon McCool. Landon, so good to be with you this Friday.
So good, but you had to mention the Super Bowl drought again. It twists the knife in me. Twist the knife.
It hurts, right? All right.
It does.
First up, let's talk about the Hall of Fame. 2 Dallas Cowboys were finalists. Darren Woodson, poor Woody, his 4th time. Why is he not in yet? What's keeping him out?
Well, let me just make a personal plea real quick that Darren Woodson is my very favorite Cowboy of all time, just personally, on a personal level. I think he's incredible and absolutely deserving 3-time All-Pro, 3-time Super Bowl champ, all-time franchise leader in tacklers, Ring of Honor member. And he just embodies everything about the NFL Hall of Fame. If you spend 5 minutes listening to the guy, and he's incredibly inspirational and intelligent, has great thought about the way football is going and has been. I'm a huge fan of his. Speaking of twisting the knife, every year that we go through this exercise and he doesn't get in, it's upsetting, it's insulting, and it feels like there is a certain amount of backlash from this 90s Cowboys team that because they've got a lot of players in already that maybe one of their most deserving can't get in, which is really frustrating.
Oh, beyond. Jason Whitten, also a finalist, also shut out. I can't believe he is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. It was only his first year of eligibility, but he has tough competition next year when Rob Gronkowski is eligible. But we talking about Big Whit.
I mean, gold jacket Whit is what we called him, right?
Yes.
And the fact that you earn that nickname while you're playing seems like a pretty strong indicator that you probably deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. I honestly am worried about both of these guys' candidacy at this point. You mentioned it. Gronk and Kelsey are coming up. Gronk next year and Kelsey not too long after that. And I just think that, like Woody, he's going to face this kind of backlog that a lot of these great players have started to run into because of some of the needlessly arbitrary rules that the Hall of Fame has. I think the problem here lies with some of the lack of transparency with the Hall of Fame, which I think that came out very clearly with the whole Bill Belichick vote. And then just some of the rules that they have in place on the limits of the numbers of players that can go in. There's a huge backlog that's developing right now, and it's not going to get any better unless they kind of relieve that. They did a little bit of that with an extra large class a few years ago, but right now they're starting to build back on a backlog, and I think Whitten and Woodson, unfortunately, are going to be 2 that get caught up in that.
Listen, Whitten don't get in, we're going to have a problem, Landon. Okay, Cowboys are also making news right before the Super Bowl. The first overseas game in years, heading to Brazil. What do you think?
It's exciting, right? Obviously, there was hope that it was going to be Mexico City. I think that's what Jerry was secretly hoping for, just because there's a huge fan base in Mexico specifically. But obviously, going to Brazil isn't going to be terrible. I mean, Rio is an incredible city. There's lots of logistics to kind of still figure out, like who the Cowboys would be playing and when that game is going to take place and all of that. But I think just generally speaking, playing in South America is going to be incredible, and it's going to be a great experience. And obviously for the Cowboys, their first international regular season game, so that's exciting as well.
Man, we got to talk about D-Law. Demarcus Lawrence said that he left so he could go and win a Super Bowl. He's playing in one this weekend. I mean, stunning.
Look, I'll say this. I think, that was a shot across the bow to Jerry, and not intentionally, I don't think. But, he made it very clear that Dallas is his home, but he didn't feel like he could win a Super Bowl here. And I hope that Jerry heard that and is seeing that Demarcus Lawrence is playing in the Super Bowl this year, and he takes it personally. And I do think that, some of the change in process that we've seen with Jerry is him reacting to stimuli like this. But to speak to Demarcus Lawrence, there couldn't be a more deserving guy, just an incredibly hard worker, just a glue guy for your team, does a lot of the dirty stuff, fights through injuries. I could not be more thrilled for Demarcus Lawrence, and I really, really hope he gets that ring.
You know, Landon, I agree with you completely. Okay, just one more here. We got to talk about this Texas high school dominance. Oh my gosh, you got the MVP, offensive player, and defensive player of the year, all from the cozy confines of North Texas. Have we really cemented, you know, our legacy as the football powerhouse of the country at this point?
You know, it's a constant struggle, right? Like I think you constantly are having to prove yourself. I think that Texas high school football had such a grip on professional and college era football for a long time, and you started to see some of these other states start to kind of catch up a little bit. But I just think that the infrastructure, the talent in this area, it's just second to none, and there's just such an emphasis on the sport that's so different than anywhere else that, you know, whether or not it's the top area at any given time, I think is probably debatable, but they're always in the argument. They're always in the conversation. I think that's what's probably most important.
All right, Landon McCool with the Locked On Cowboys podcast. So exciting to have you on this Friday. May the Cowboys play in a Super Bowl one day.
Oh man, I hope we're all hoping for that. We can all put a little prayer list down and say, please, Cowboys 2027 Super Bowl at the top of that list.
Have a great weekend, my friend.